Order. Will our guest chaplain, Representative Themis Claridis, lead us in prayer?
Creator and loving God, we bow our heads in prayer on this last day of the 2020 legislative session. We invoke your holy presence, asking for guidance over this legislative body as we navigate the challenges of a global pandemic. Grant the citizens of this great state comfort where there has been loss, peace where there has been anxiety, and hope for healing and restoration. We ask your blessing for our legislators as they serve their communities. Amen.
Thank you very much, Madam. Will Representative Ritter of the 1st District lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you very much, sir. Is there any business on the clerk's desk?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Communications from the Governor, Executive Orders, COVID-19 response orders.
Order them printed in the Journal.
And just the daily calendar.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our official end of the session day. Typically, at midnight tonight, we would have gone sine die. Given the pandemic that we're facing and the safety requirements we put into place for not only our members, but the members of the public and everybody else that works up here, we were not able to have a session, as we all know. We thought it important, though, to come in today to adjourn this session. While we may not have been here on a daily basis, we may not have had the committee meetings, we may not have had the ability to pass legislation, by no means does it mean we were not working. 6 to 8 hours a day for myself and the other leaders, the chairs, the ranking members. We were on the phone evaluating the executive orders. We were on the phone looking at different proposals that were coming forward from other constitutional officers. But most importantly, we were there to answer the phone for our constituents with the Department of Labor issues, with nursing home issues. Some of our reps were delivering food. Some of our reps were delivering masks. This has been a very trying time. When the majority leader and the minority leader mentioned that thought of coming in and at least adjourning sine die, I fully embraced it. As you can tell, we're all socially distancing. We're doing what we can to not only protect ourselves, but others. But this has been a tough time for us all. In this particular case, while we're not going to act on business, I'm just going to open it up to points of personal privilege or comments. With that being said, Representative Candelora of the 86th District, you now have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, it's hard to imagine when we were first gaveling in for this session that we would end up ending our session this way, especially when we have two very important leaders here that are retiring. I think that took a lot of us by surprise in some cases. And I have to say, we've had so many firsts under this leadership team. You know, on our side, having the first female leader, but also having one of the first bipartisan budgets I think this state has ever seen. We had, Ethan's Law, gun legislation, that was actually the first to have the most bipartisan support of any gun legislation in the history of Connecticut. And it's just a testament to you and Representative Claridis, your styles of leadership You've shown courage. You've shown us all that working together is not a bad thing, and I think it's something that other states should follow. And I have been very proud to serve as a deputy, not only under Representative Claridge's leadership, but also under your leadership. It's been a great example, and we will certainly have our chances to give remarks to both of you and honor you appropriately. But as we end today in Sine Die, I just wanted to say that as we are fighting through this pandemic, I know of no two leaders that are better suited in this House to help us get through these tough times. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Are there any other points of personal privilege? Representative Claridge of the 100. Oh. Hey, what's going on? Representative Claridge of the 114th, you have the floor, madam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a few comments to make, but first I would like to say ask for a moment of silence for Jack Kramer, who passed away yesterday, who we all know has made such an amazing contribution to the media in Connecticut, whether it be the New Haven Register, Connecticut News Junkie, as of late, and somebody that has touched all of us in our own way throughout time with all his contributions and showing people what the press is really about.
Let's do a moment of silence, please. Everybody, please stand. Thank you very much, madam. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I thank Representative Candelora for his kind words. I'm going to try not to address any of them right now because I can't go through this twice, and I know we're going to do this another time when we're all here together with our caucuses and our staff, but I will say that it's been an honor to serve with you, Representative Ritter, and Vincenz. There's nothing, you had to do this, and now I'm upset, and you're gonna suffer. There's nothing more important, as we all know, as leaders or heads of anything, than having somebody by your side who you totally trust and rely on, and I've been able to say that. So that's all we're gonna say for now about that. We have found ourselves in a place where normally at this time on this day, we are all beginning to be completely frantic about what the next 7 hours will bring. We're exhausted from being here day in and day out all session, particularly the past week or two. We're arguing over whose bills are going to be called. We're arguing over how long those bills are going to take. And we're waiting anxiously for midnight so we can actually finally get a good night's sleep. And I will just speak for myself. When we complain about a lot of that, which we do every session and every year, not being able to do it this year has been a very jarring experience. Because for me, it has made me appreciate the franticness, the hectic nature of this, the happy moments, the sad moments, the angry moments, and what we do together, and how we do it, and how we usually agree that working together, particularly in this chamber, gets us the best result for the state of Connecticut. So this is bittersweet in so many ways, this day. But I will tell you that every day when we all drive up here, I know there are some days more than others, we look up at that building and that gold dome, and then we walk in this building and we look up and we say, this is a pretty cool place to work. And there's some days we say we can't get out of here fast enough, as anybody does with their job. But this is an experience almost nobody ever gets in their lives. And I think that this experience in this pandemic and people being afraid for their lives and afraid for their families and afraid for their livelihoods and our ability to help them in any way we can, and the fact that we're working probably harder not being in the building, but not being with each other has, to me, made this experience an even more important one. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Madam. And to echo a little bit of your comments, I said to somebody today, the hardest part has been missing my friends. And for you, Madam Minority Leader Themis, you really are one of my friends. I genuinely love you, and I am going to miss our interactions, sometimes a little more spirited than others. But in the end, I always knew you were my friend, and I hope you always knew I was your friend, and we both understood our roles, and working with you has been incredible. And again, I will say more when we have everybody else here, but it is a bittersweet day. With that being said, Representative Ritter of the 1st District, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Minority Leader and Representative Candelora for their nice comments. And I do want to recognize our Senate leadership that is here, Senate President Looney and Senate Majority Leader Duff. I know that Senator Fasano did stop by briefly, but it's nice to see you all and under these unusual circumstances. We also had scripted, so there was no sense to the order of the 2 moment of silences, but we did want to also do a moment of silence, all the leaders gathered in this room here, for everybody here in the state of Connecticut who has lost their lives, to those who inevitably and unfortunately will lose their lives in the coming weeks and months as we face the worst health crisis this state has probably seen since 1918, 1919. So, Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I'd ask that we do a moment of silence in the chamber for all the families, loved ones, and our residents who are going through an absolute nightmare right now. Thank you.
Very appropriate, Mr. Majority Leader. Representative Ritter, you still have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I am trying to talk through this thing. I hope I don't get too good at it, because that means that we're doing this for a long time, and we hope that the people that are working on our behalf will find a way, whether it's through science or research, that there's better days ahead, and I'm sure there are here for the state and for this country. I want to echo what Representative Clara said and Representative Candelora, thanking our healthcare workers, our nurses, our doctors, our first responders, people who've been deemed essential employees. None of us ever thought a few months ago that that designation could mean the difference between having the ability to work from home and having to go in every day on the front lines. And when I walk around or I'm walking the dog, I'm amazed at how many people have to, you see people and what they're doing and going about their business, but going to as we all know, a simple trip to the grocery store can set us all off just as people who are shopping. Imagine the folks that are working every day for us. And so they really do deserve our praise, our love, our respect, and our appreciation. And I hope there are ways that we can do that beyond words in the coming months and in coming years. And what about our teachers? I can tell you that Jack and Emma don't think their dad's a very good teacher and probably don't think mom's a very good teacher. And what they do, we all know what they do on a daily basis, and paraprofessionals, but what an appreciation you have. For me, it's 2 young children. Many of them have 20 to 22, or high school kids with a lot of different things going on. They are able to do it daily and touch lives. And I think one of the hardest parts is breaking up that relationship between students and teachers and coaches, Mr. Speaker, which you do. So we thank you. And again, we know how hard your job is, in case we ever forgot it for a second. To the minority leader, we're going to have more time to say goodbye. I agree. So I'm not going to do some long thing. But I will leave you with a thought. When I was sitting in the chamber when Representative Cafaro retired, and you know, Larry, he had, you know, the drama, and he was great, and it was a great speech, and as good of a public speaker as I've ever seen in this chamber. And one thing that people were saying when I was sitting, I was somewhere over there, I don't know where I was, maybe I was chair of public health. People said, you know, everybody really respected Larry, and they respected his preparation, and they respected the way that when he came in the chamber, there was sort of a buzz. You probably topped Larry, to be honest with you. You were prepared every single day with the help of your team and your staff so that our guys knew on this side, don't go there. If you're going to call a bill, be prepared. If you're going to debate it professionally. Know your stuff. Know your information. Be respectful of the committee process. Be respectful of your ranking member. You set a tone with your skill set, with your drive, and it trickles down in this chamber. You can tell when there's no respect. You can tell when there's no give and take. We can see it in committees. Everyone on the Democratic side of this aisle, when you walked in, paid attention. When you spoke, they listened. That is a leader of a caucus. You're formidable. So we're not going to miss you in that formidableness that you bring, but I have a feeling your heir apparent is going to bring the same level of determination, intelligence, and cooperation. But that is the ultimate measure of a leader, is when you walk in, what happens? Do people pay attention? I assure you on this side, we always did. I also want to say to Senator Fasano, who's also retiring, we're going to miss you too. You know, Len is the classic legislator, in my opinion, from, I don't want to say a different time, because that seems like I'm dating him. That's not what I mean. But he likes to pen his letters, long letters. But with Len, you can get there with him. But it takes time, right? So Senator Fasano makes you work on deals. He makes you look at his letters. He wants to understand your viewpoint. And that's all you can really ask from somebody, is do they give you an opportunity to strike a deal with them on legislation? Too often in this building, it's just yes or no. He gave you a road. He gave you a map. Sometimes it was a long road, but you could figure it out, and you could take the choice whether you wanted to work with him or not. And in many cases, it was better for you to work with him than not to work with him. He will be sorely missed up here. I also want to acknowledge the governor's staff that is here. I mean, the governor is not here, but I saw Josh. I saw Paul Mounds. I know Bob Clark is working night and day, Melissa McCaw. Because of our inability to come in and do some of the things we normally do, a great burden has fallen on you. That is also the burden of people yelling at you for the things that you do, and that's part of the job that we have. But to do the things that they've had to do in the last 60 days is unprecedented in the history of state government. No one's had to do that. The things we've had to think about by executive order, a different design, I think we all owe them a great deal of appreciation, and the same with the governor. The governor has been a steady, calm force for the state of Connecticut in a time when we sorely need that. He is, I'm sure, wishing, I think governors love when we're not in the place, right, in the building. I wonder sometimes they kind of wish we were here to share in that burden, but we are, and we are equal partners, and as you said, we are coming back in, and the legislative function will continue, and being here tonight is a symbol of that our responsibility is not punted, it's just delayed until we can get this under control. On our side of the House, and we'll recognize them, I know, Mr. Speaker, this will be your last day before your retirement, but not your last day in session. We also have 6 members that are not running for re-election on our side. Buddy Altabella, a deputy speaker and a longtime legislator. Rick Lopes, who's running for state senate. Representative Russ Morin, another deputy speaker. Representative Kim Rose. Representative Joe Serra, who served a very, very long, distinguished career. And the chair of our Public Safety Committee, Representative Orengia, and we look forward to recognizing them. And just to your point, Mr. Speaker, you hit it perfectly. There is this question of what is our role in the legislature going forward over the next couple of months. But it also misplaces that question about what have we done. And although the state library will have a very paper-thin record of what we did, when you think about it, if someone researched the 2020 session, you would find all of maybe 3 or 4 days that we went in. You would find all votes, I believe, unanimous. I don't think there was any vote where someone voted no. Well, it could be wrong, maybe a couple no votes. But at the end of the day, it will not go down in history as the most productive session in terms of bills passed and amendments debated. But to your point, everyone has taken on a new role, and it's been facilitating answers to constituent questions that in some cases are life or death. because it means their ability to feed their family. It means their ability to get unemployment compensation. And the state will have to do a look, the legislature with the executive branch, on what we could have done better, right? We probably should have upgraded our systems a long time ago in DOL. What other systems do we have that are outdated like that? That's no one's fault today. That was people's fault for the last 20 years. But we got to think about that. But that's what the legislative role is going to be going forward, and that's what it's been today. It's doing the volunteer work and being in your community. And the amount of questions that I know we all get from our colleagues is staggering, and we know how hard they're working on every subject, and every member's requests are answered. We do our best to do that. I do want to also say, I know in our chamber we've had some losses on our side. I know I'm going to probably leave people out, but I know Jim Tamburo, our head of legislative management, lost his father. In the same nursing home, Representative McGee lost his grandmother. I know Representative Porter has lost family, and I'm sure I'm leaving other people out. But again, our thoughts and prayers are with them during this incredibly difficult time for so many people. And also, Mr. Speaker, I think about Representative Garibay, the only member, to my knowledge, of the General Assembly that tested positive for COVID-19. She called me when it broke, and she said, "I can't believe this is on the front page of the newspaper." And I said, I know, Jane, but you're a state legislator, and you are a public official. And she handled it with incredible grace, but it was a real struggle for her. And she would text and explain the symptoms she was feeling and to all of us. And she is tough as nails. She's doing great to the people of Connecticut. Representative Garibay is somebody that if you had to go through a battle with, you'd want her on your side. She's a very tough person. So, Mr. Speaker, before I get to you really quickly, because I do want to do more as we get into June for our special session, we just do have to talk about that. And so I think we have acknowledged that to the public. We understand there is a role at some point. We just got to figure out a way to do it safely. We have to figure a way that this chamber is not packed, that people aren't walking up and down the aisles. But there are things we're going to have to do. And then I think long term, maybe those folks who are retiring, it's not as important. Our rules need to be updated to reflect maybe modern reality. Maybe we got to be honest that our traditions are critical, but they have to also reflect modern technology. And we have to find a way to balance that. Sometimes our rules are really unique and allows us to have days like this that have been going on for decades, and you can point back to following the same procedures. But when your democracy is uprooted like this, it's a good reminder to say, wait a second, maybe there are other ways to have people testify in public hearings. Maybe we should let people consider ways of voting that involve technology more in this building. That's a challenge for us, I think, all as legislators going forward. And to Mr. Speaker, just to wrap up about you, there was a quote. I don't know who John Maxwell is. I guess he's a famous author, so I apologize. But I found it. I thought it was really good about you. The pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist expects it to change. And the leader adjusts the sails. And so for you, you came into Speaker with a razor-thin majority and a tied Senate. And we had our, as was alluded to, a historic budget that I think left our state in a better position. And you leave with a global pandemic. And for some people, they may look back and go, was that really the fair hand that I was dealt? But I think that circumstances find people the same way people can find circumstances. You were the perfect person to bring a chamber through those two crises. Or no, the first one wasn't a crisis, but it created a budget crisis. And this one certainly is a crisis. You're calm, you're direct, you're honest, you're approachable, you're affable, you're available to the media, you're available to your members. You are that rare combination of a football coach and knowing how to bring the best out of people, coupled with the seriousness of a legislator. You got into policy more than I think any of us appreciate on issues that I'm not always sure why you dug in on them, because you had that side to you that you felt this is right for the state. And so you combined the affability with the intellect. You combined the coach's mantra with a chamber that sometimes needed to be treated with a heavy hand, too. And so we're a team, but I'm also the boss. And you knew when to play that card, when to bang that gavel, but also when to bring people together. It's a really unique skill set. I'm going to miss you. I know our friendship and our relationship will continue long after this, just like it will with the minority leader and others. But I truly love you as a person and as a friend. And I'm sorry this is your last day. The way you had scripted it in your mind, that video would have been really cool. And I know we may have it later. But just know that this was meant to be on your watch, because not everybody could handle this the way you have with the class that you have. So congratulations on your wonderful career, and we'll do it again in June. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Majority, and obviously, I've said it multiple times, you really are one of my best friends, and I love you to death, and we will have far more time to talk about this. While we are joined by our Senate friends, Senator Duff, I wasn't in the House with you. You had already gone up to the Senate, but working with you over these past few years has really been great. I not only enjoy your company, I enjoy you as a person, and it was always nice for you and I to say, as the two non-lawyers in the group, because we were always outnumbered by lawyers, but what I think we had on our side maybe not was the exact interpretation of the law, but more times than not, your simple question of, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense, would always make us pause and bring us back to a discussion that was fruitful. So I appreciate you and your partnership. And Senator Looney, again, I tell Vinny all the time, I said, I just really love that guy. You are an amazing leader. You are one of the hardest working, most dedicated public servants I think I've ever been around. There was no more truer testament than a major organ transplant, and here you are on opening day. The state is far better for everything that you've ever done, and working with you has been a pleasure, and we had some challenging times. The majority leader mentioned as speaker, I walked into the budget, and I'm walking out to a pandemic. But Marty, we were both majority leaders when we walked into, my first official act as a majority leader was the Sandy Hook tragedy. And that's when we started working together. So I came in to leadership with Sandy Hook. I'm going out with a pandemic. So you all should be saying, will you hurry up and get out of here already? You're just not bringing us good luck. But Marty, thank you for everything over the years. It really has been pleasurable. Again, we'll have our members here. I know I'm going to be far more emotional. There's so many people I could thank, but we'll do that when we have the appropriate time. Mr. Majority Leader, typically there's a motion that comes before us so we can close out what is the session.
So I thought, I don't know if the minority leader would want to do it, but I would have no problem in an unusual break of tradition, but seems like we've done a few things a little differently in the last couple of months. Turning over that responsibility to the minority leader if she'd want to bring us to Sine Die here in the House chamber.
Is there a motion to come before the chamber?
Well, thank you, Mr. Majority Leader. I never really paid any attention when you did it, so I don't really know. I know. Mr. Speaker, I make a motion we adjourn Sine Die.
The question before the chamber is adjourning Sine Die. Is there objection? Is there objection? As I do it, I want us to remember one of our colleagues, and as we're doing the Sine Die, we're going to do it as bye-bye now for Linda Orange. So, without objection, we are adjourned Sine Die. Bye-bye now.